Hi everybody, it's Joni Young here. Welcome back for another painting tutorial in acrylics. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a lady wearing a gown in winter time with some glowing, foggy, misty lights behind her. I'm going to have a lot of fun with some blues and greens and some warm colors. I'll go over them right now. And I've got titanium white starting on the left, yellow oxide, quinacridone magenta, luminous violet, luminous red, phthalo green and phthalo blue, and Mars black. I'm working on a 16 by 20 canvas and I have the following 3 brushes. So I've got a 50 filbert, a 4 filbert, and a 1 round brush, or any small detail brush will work for this. So what I'm going to do is also soften the background with a mop brush. I'll show you how to blend out your backgrounds to make them look out of focus. So if you guys are ready to learn how to paint this, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to wet my canvas down with some water first and just evenly coat the canvas so it's a little bit damp, and this way we can start blending our acrylics out easily. So I'm going to start with a little bit of green, and I'm just going to dab, dab, dab. Leaving a few spaces. Then I'm going to take some blue and I'm going to start adding blue in and around the green. You can layer over, you can add it to your white areas. I'm going to rinse that brush out. And I'm going to come in with my dry mop brush and I'm just going to go around in soft circles. Just to get rid of any harsh lines and just to soften all these areas. Now if your brush starts to get a little bit too saturated, like mine is right now, I'm going to put that in my bucket and wash that out. Switch over to a dry and clean secondary brush so I can get the same soft effect, because once you get too much paint in your brush, you're not going to be able to soften those areas. Now any spots that are left white, we're just gonna make them little glowing lights. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse all these brushes out. Now we're going to dry this entire canvas off and then start coming in with some glowing orb types of lights just to make it look like they're blurry and out of focus. Okay, now that it's all dry, I'm going to go down a few sizes to my smaller filbert, number 4. I'm going to get my brush just a little bit wet, dry off any drips, and I'm going to start coming in with a little bit of yellow oxide and white. Just mix those up. And I'm just gonna gently push and twist. Leaving a little circle, and then I'm gonna go around. Almost like how we would paint a glowing sun or a moon. We're going to come back in side and brighten those up a little bit more. Okay, we'll take a little bit more. You can make them a little bit bigger if you push down a little more firmly to use the full width of the brush. And you can also just go like this if it's easier. I just like to show you guys different techniques. So I'm going to make them different sizes. And all just kind of glow a little bit differently. Now I'm going over the blue-green background, and I did dry it off, but it hasn't been like 24 hours, so I can still loosen that and it can start to tint and mix in with my yellow and white. But I like that. I think that'll look really pretty. So I'm gonna just go over some of these. Make them look like they're overlapping. And then I'll add some smaller ones. And then I'm going to add a few little stars. So I'll just start by adding my star line down here, a line across, and then any other little lines you want. Like, you can just keep going and make it as glowing and bright as you want. Just going to wipe off the excess on my towel here. And then from the center with the end of my brush, I'm just going to lightly pull off of those lines, and it's going to make it look like it's glowing and really sparkling. So I'm going to add a few of these here and there. Again, wiping off the excess on my towel. And then just gently pulling off of those. There's a little bit of wet paint to work with, and just a tiny bit in my brush that gives us this dry brush effect. Now we're going to come in with the liner brush and add a little sparkle, make it a little bit brighter inside after. And then I'll just continue making some of these glowing circles. And I'm going to take my little round brush, a little bit of white, and I'm going to go inside and re-brighten these, and then come back in with a little dab of white. Because once I add the white in the center, I'm using that paint to flick all these little lines with. Okay, so dab, use that. And then come in with a fresh dab. Okay, then I'm going to come around and add little dabs, dots and dabs. I didn't like that shape, so I'm just going to make it into a little soft glowing orb. So basically what we're doing is just creating different sizes and then a few little stars. Now you can also go over those little ones. I find it just easy to use my finger and then redot and dab with the white. Now, although I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video when I was going over supplies, I am going to use a toothbrush right now, and I'm going to spray on some snow, and I'm just going to gently scrub it into the white. I got it a little bit wet first. You need a little bit of water and a little bit of paint evenly on your toothbrush, and then you just point and aim and spray. Now if you use a little bit more water and thin your paint out, so the thinner your paint is, the bigger the spray is going to be. Like, you might be left with some uneven globs, but if that happens, just turn them into little stars. Now, if you keep spraying repeatedly in one spot, you can really make it look like a fine airbrush. You know, like when people use spray paint, aerosol cans and an airbrush, and they get like this really fine, misty look. And that's just spraying over and over in one area. Okay, so now it's all dry. We're gonna add her down here. So we'll have her face right about here, and then have her down here, kind of sitting and having her dress flowing out and just kind of maybe blending in with some snow. I'm gonna use my little filbert brush here, yellow and white. A little bit of red. You don't want to have too much paint in your brush. Okay. So we're going to start with her forehead. Sort of an oval, arch shape like this. And then we're going to come down a light little scoop for her nose. And then down, scoop just a little bit here for her chin, and then scoop up. And then I'm going to take a little bit more white, and I'm going to make this a little bit brighter because my paint is a little bit thin, and it's going to show the blue underneath. But I chose the blue area to start this because we get that nice kind of outline that's really going to help make her face show up. So I'm just applying extra white around her mouth and in between her mouth and her nose, and then up on her cheek. And her eye's going to be somewhere in here. We'll just go over with our brush. Now what I'm going to do is loosen some of this paint here and bring up her jawline a little bit higher like this. So we'll bring it up, and then her ear will be somewhere right about here. Her hair is going to be coming down, and she's going to have a shadow on her neck. So I'm going to take a little bit of red, yellow oxide, a little bit of crimson, and a touch of blue, and we're going to make a nice shadow color. So I'm going to come underneath her jawline, up to her ear, and then gently scoop down. And then come right in here. Rinsing my brush out. I'm going to go back over to my peach skin color that I made, and I'm going to start applying it part way down her neck, and then just a little ways down, and then over. I'm going to add that peach over her jawline. Now once this dries, we'll be able to start coming in with some more color. Just going to bring her shoulder, start it above the neck area here. And then she's going to have a puffy sleeve. I'm going to use some white. So it's going to go over part of her neck. And then on the other side, we're going to bring that up for her puffy sleeve on this side. And then I'm going to scoop down into a V. I'm going to go back to the peach mixture. And just add that in there. Bring these sleeves, these shoulders up and out a little bit bigger. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of the violet and the dark skin color that we used for the neck. And I'm going to just gently start working that into the white puffs. I'm going to come just here where it starts from her shoulder and add a little bit of a shadow of this color here. And pick up just a little bit more of that beautiful violet, but I'm toning it with the dark shadowed skin color. And I'm going to take a little bit of black with crimson and the violet. So we've got this really deep dark color. I'm going to wrap that around at a few little lines, flicks like this. I'm going to do the same on this side. And then dab down and above right there. Take those colors again. Start pulling out her arm. And her chest area. And then her back is going to start just a little bit this way, and then we're going to pull in. And then we're just going to have, look at how pretty that color looks against the blue and the green. We're going to come really close to the arm. And then I'm going to just make that gown spread out off the canvas. We're going to put her arm up here. And she's just going to be holding something. I don't know what yet. I'm going to take a little bit of white in with the red and the violet, and we'll make a lighter shade here. I'm going to bring it down here. And then lightly just pulling a few little lines in here for her, like the fabric, where it will like gather a little bit together. I'm going to take a little bit more white, crimson and violet. We'll just make this stand out where the fabric's a little bit lighter or the light is just hitting it a little bit more. And then I'll take some of that luminous red with my crimson. And just add little hints of that as well. And on her back side. And I'm going to take the violet and the crimson again. So the colors work really well together because they're complementary. So it really, really helps. I'm going to go in between here with the dark colors. Now these are going to dry even darker than this, because they're transparent. So you're going to get some beautiful shades. Just making sure I get the bottom edges of the canvas and the side. I'm going to puff this out a little bit more fabric, and mix up a little bit of all three of these colors here. Them a little bit lighter and add a few more highlights. A little more white with red, and just gradually start making lighter and lighter highlights. This will make the dress look layered and 3D. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of blue, black, and violet. That a little bit darker than everything else on the dress. And then I'm going to come just in between her arm and her waist. And her chest and her arm. And anywhere else that I want to have it a little bit darker. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit more of the violet and mix that in there. Some red with the black and the violet, just making these beautiful deep dark colors. That's not quite dark enough. Let's take a little bit more black. And then here I'm just going to come in and add some little lines. For some extra pleats in the dress where the fabric goes in. Oh, creating that depth. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more white now. And lightly go in between these little gathered areas. And also because it looks a little see-through still, so I want to make some of them a little bit more solid. And then I'm going to tap a little bit of white there. I'm going to add a little white cuff. And just a little bit of white. To brighten up a few of these areas here. I'm going to mix a little bit of red in with it, just tint it a little bit like this. Just a little bit on the back there. Okay, and then we'll mix up our red, a little bit of violet, a little bit of white, and we'll add a highlight here. Just lightly pulling little lines like this. Again, just to make it look like there's some fabric in her dress, little wrinkles, fabric gathering, you know what I mean. And I'm going to take a little bit of yellow oxide, mix that in with that color I just used, this one here. I'm going to add that in her hand. I'm going to add this color, dab for her ear and the side of her face. Lightly just brush over part of the darkest shadow and the lightest highlight on her neck. A little bit on her, where her puff shoulder meets her neck. And then just a little bit of white mixed in with some yellow ochre. I'm gonna add a little highlight here. Softly blend this out. I'm gonna rinse my brush out. And I'm going to take some more white with just a little bit of yellow ochre, and we're going to add another highlight here because it's still looking a little see-through. And then I'm just going to lightly soften that. Chin and go up around her cheek area. Just going to take a little bit of the black violet yellow oxide base color here. And just making her hands a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take some black, yellow oxide, some red. We're going to make a dark hair color. You can make yours a little bit lighter if you want, just use less black. I'm going to take just a little bit of water, thin that out slightly so I can work with it. We'll have a little bit of hair going around the side of her face there. And then we're gonna start her part right there. So I kind of just went over her forehead a little bit. We're gonna bring it down and scoop over, down and scoop over part of her ear. Around her neckline, bring it in. And then we'll just have her hair kind of tumbling down her back. We're going to make her hair come up a little bit higher. Give her a little bun up here. I feel like I'm painting Belle from Beauty and the Beast, except the color of her dress is different. I'm just going to create these little curls just by flicking up like that. Okay, rinsing my brush out. I'm going to go over to my round brush now, and I'm going to add some yellow oxide and use this little narrow brush to create some highlights. And I'm going to use a little bit more yellow oxide because the paint is wet underneath, so I can use that. So bring this up and over. You want to leave some spaces in between so you get the dark contrast. And then I'm going to go down and twist over, down and twist over. Make it look like a bun. So just wrap these little curls. Scoop, scoop, scoop. Then I'm going to take some black and I'm going to add this to where I want it to be the absolute darkest. Wherever it goes under like that is where the light will have the hardest time hitting it. When it pops out, it'll be a little bit brighter. Except for right here, the light's hitting this part here. I'm just going to go around her ear and at the back of her neck. This will make her hair look more 3D and three-dimensional, and you'll see mid-tones, the chocolate brown, and then dark shadows like this. And then we're going to start working on her face pretty soon. I just want to get these areas here. It's looking a little bit solid in this area here, so I want to add a little bit more. And then again under her arm, these areas where it kind of gathers, and then in between her arm and her waist. A few extra details. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush out. And I want to add a pretty ribbon here. I'm gonna use a little bit of white with the violet, a little bit of the crimson, and I'm gonna dab, 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 dab. Gonna add a little bit more white there. Brighten that up. I'm gonna add a little earring. A few little dabs like that coming down. And I'm gonna add a little bit more to her ear. Yellow oxide, white, and the crimson violet mixture here. Just make her ear a little bit bigger. And then I'll take a little bit of black, yellow oxide, and I'm going to bring down her hair a little bit right there. Now I'll take some yellow oxide, just a hint more of the black. Add a little bit down here as well. A little bit of hair that's visible right there. A little bit of the yellow mixed in. Gently washing my brush out, and I'm going to go over to a little bit of red and white. Mix it up. Make it as light as dark, or as dark as you want, or as saturated as you want, and then work out most of the paint so you have more of a dry brush. And then we're just going to start coming in the cheek area here and adding some rosy blushed cheeks. I'm going to add a little bit to her nose here. And I'm going to start her lips with a little bit of black, red, and violet. wipe off the excess paint. And bring in her nose shadows here, nostril, curl that up a little bit. Now I'm going to come in with a little bit of the light red shade that I used for her cheek. And just soften her lip. And then take a little bit of just the straight red. Bring that up a little bit. And the bottom one just down a little bit. With a clean brush, a little bit of water, and the black mixture over here. Gonna add her eyebrow. So slightly up, gentle little scoop, bring it up and then over. We're not really gonna see too much on this side, but we can just add a little scoop right there, and then a little dab for her nostril. I'm going to make her eyebrow just a little bit thicker here. And then I'm going to start coming down here for her eye, because she's looking down. And then we'll just pull a few little lines for her eyelashes. I'm gonna go over to red, yellow oxide, mix that up there so we get kind of like a muted dark brown, but warm shade. I'm going to play up on the corner of her eye, and then add a little line here, and then one here that goes down. And a little bit more there, but I'm just going to wet my brush, soften that. Blend some of this brown out. Give her a smoky eye. And I'm going to go back over to my white. Shape in her nose. I'm going to make that light skin color again. Yellow, red, and white. And we need to work on our shadow right here. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue, mix that in with my black, reddish brown, just to create this sort of muddy tone. We're going to go all the way from the corner of her eye down. And then soften, soften. I'm going to bring just a little bit more hair right in here just to make her forehead not so big. So I'm going to bring this down here, flip it over, drop this down a little bit more. Yellow oxide, a little bit of red in there just to warm it up. And then I'm gonna just narrow this a little bit by adding a little bit more black. Just cutting in a little bit like that. I'm gonna drop her hair down a little lower here. And I'm going to give her skin tone a little bit more warmth. So a little bit of red, white, and yellow. And let's just add a little bit of this. Then I'm going to add more of the red. Her cheekbone. I'm going to take a little bit of blue, clean brush, and I'm just going to add a little scoop there for her nose. And then on the end of her eye, pull in and then down, making that come down a little thicker from the corner there, down. Now her eye would be somewhere right about there. I'm just going to add a little dab. And then a little dab here on the corner of her mouth. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and white. Got a few more highlights. I'll warm that up just a little bit so it's lighter than the rest of her face, but not too light. I just want like a gradual. I'll go back over to my blue. And then a little bit of violet. Just give her a little bit more of a bigger smile. Now I want to work on her earrings again, so I'm just going to take a little bit of violet with the white, and I'm going to add dab, dab, dab. Have that show up just a little bit better. A few little dabs on the ribbon here. Maybe we can have her holding a little bird. So I'm going to start with, let's see. Maybe just a little bit of a dark gray first. So some black and white. We'll have the head like this, come down, and a little bit of a beak there. And then the tail feather back there, and then part of the wing. Take a little bit of white now, and I'm going to add some short little brush strokes, a little bit on that side of the wing, a little bit on the beak, dab on the eye, and we need to give this little bird some little claws or feet. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow with a white. just a little bit of color to him. A few little lines in the tail feather. And then I'm going to add a little bit of red to my yellow to make a shade of peach. So white, yellow, and red. We'll add just a little bit of color there on his chest. And then just shape that in. I just want to make that beak stand out a little bit better. And I'm going to play up on just a little bit more red, still mixed in with a bit of yellow and white. I'm going to lighten her skin on her hand. Just on the top, and it's still darker on the bottom. I'm just going to go back over to my filbert brush, add a little bit of red, violet, and white. And I'm going to add some more highlights here. Make the fabric stand out. I'm just playing up on the highlights that are already here. I want her dress to look somewhat velvety. I just want to lighten the wing on the bird a little bit. It's a bit too black right there, so I'm just adding a little bit of gray to break that up. A little bit lighter. And then I'll make some brown again with my red, yellow, and black. And just bring her eyeshadow over a little bit more here. Okay, I'm going to add a few more little stars and snowflakes. I'll use a bit of blue and white. Go over to my filbert brush. And just blend these out and make these glow a little bit bigger. I have a few back here. A little dab of white. This painting's been really relaxing. You can probably tell if you go back to the beginning of the video, I'm a little bit more upbeat, and now I just feel really relaxed. That just proves how good painting is for your state of mind and your well-being. So see, by just layering them in different sizes, you can make it look like glowing orbs. I'll just add a few more here, and then I'll come in with some smaller details with my detail brush. And just going around and around those stars to make them glow a little bit more as well. Okay, time for the final details of this painting. My Little round brush here. Add a few twinkling stars and lights, sparkles, whatever they are. A little bit of winter magic. You can make these any color that you want, just as long as it's brighter than the background. And we'll add some more lines on this one. Redab the center. Soften those and then another dab. Now, when you're adding little lines on the stars with a little liner brush or detail brush, it really helps to place your pinky, because it'll help to steady your hand. If you're trying to do it like this, it's so awkward and so much harder. This one was looking a little bit dull. Add the final little details here. I keep saying that, but you know, when you enjoy doing something so much, you just don't want to stop. You just want to keep going. And all I'm really doing here is just adding a little bit extra dots and dabs, all different sizes. And then you can just, again, just soften with your finger. Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today for this tutorial. I want to wish you all the best in the new year and the holidays. Take care, and I'll see you soon in another video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more, and please become one of my Patreon members. I'll have links below for both of those. See you next time.